Does a modest growth target bode well for markets?
I think people were hoping for more. Right? So obviously, if you set a higher target, that means huge stimulus coming. Right? But then, given that in the past couple of months, the Chinese government has rolled out quite a few stimulus already. Right? So it's time to take a pause and see, what's the effect coming from those policies, so that you can decide what to do next.
Are they doing the right thing in terms of directing the right resources towards their stated goal of having more consumption here? Because there was a bit of criticism with regards to that, because they were going by the old playbook, if you will, of looking at perhaps still the funds that they have, no real stimulus, fresh stimulus, but going towards the old economy, as it were.
Yeah, well, I think for years, China has been relying on property for growth. So I think this is one of the few times we actually say, oh, we want to stimulate consumption. And given that, before the NPC meetings, people were hoping for consumption coupon like what we did here in Hong Kong. But then, given that there are like 18 trillion yuan new deposits in the banking system just last year alone, so there's just plenty of cash flowing around. So in this environment, if you want to give out consumption coupon, it's not that people don't have the cash to spend, it's that people don't have the confidence to spend. So I think boosting confidence may be more of the key here.
Can they generate? We were just talking to the Tixis about this 12 million target of jobs.
Yes.
This new target. Is that achievable?
It's tough. I mean, obviously, the job market continues to be very, very, very challenging. So yesterday we've seen news about Zhengzhou, Henan, Jingzhou, the uni graduates is, having jobs that is offering them, 2,000 yuan a month, which is like minimum salary anywhere. So, it shows that the job market is very challenging. I think 12 million jobs in such an environment, we have to wait and see, what's going on. Yeah.
Just marking these pictures here, this is the new foreign minister, if you will. He was promoted 2 months ago. He was former ambassador to the US. It's probably sending the right signs, if you will, to Washington in some ways. But this relationship gets worse and worse, does it not? How does it affect your thinking in a macro sense?
I think the direction is set in the sense that the rivalry is going to be intensified. So already we're seeing increasing ban of technology exports from the U.S. and it's trying to hinder the Chinese technology development. So I wouldn't be surprised to say, as we go into the election cycle, it gets even more hawkish. Yeah. So I think people should take it as a given and plan around that.
What in particular were we watching out for in this leadership reshuffle? There's been, several names that have been,
that's right,
floated around. Yes. He Feng, Li Qiang. Yes. Like, is there one person in particular that you look at and say like that, that's the big signal for where policy is going to go?
I think people tend to look at the 3 key posts. So who's going to be the premier, and the premier who's in charge of economic management, and who's going to be the PBOC governor, who's going to be in charge of the monetary policy, and also the CBRC, which is a regulator that is overseeing the financial industries now. So I think these are the 3 key posts. And also, I heard that there are new government agencies being formed that is regulating, so all the other all-important, for example, the IT industries, the manufacturing sectors. So it used to be NDRC, so now, we're hearing that, the Central Financial Committee is being sort of relaunched, into a bigger, more powerful organization.
So does that presage more regulation or more, perhaps, of a warning than anything else? That's the thing.
I think, once again, the direction here, after the past 3 years, you've seen increasing regulatory oversight, over the national development. So I'm really surprised to see, more regulation being imposed. But having said that, though, I mean, in the past 3 years, we have this anti-monopoly campaign going on, and I think it actually sort of taken care of many of the lower income people who is working as, for example, a delivery man, for Meituan, for example, right? So they're getting more social benefits, more pension benefits from this big conglomerate. I think going forward, since the tone is being set and also more organization is being created, I wouldn't be surprised to see like tighter regulation, going forward.